Okay, I'm going to try this a few different ways and see which one works best. But I've been wanting to make this video for you guys for a while now. Um, the topic is balance, and I wanted to talk to you about it because I'm not very balanced in my life right now in any way, financially, physically, socially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all of it. It's all out of whack, you guys, okay? And there are multiple reasons for that, but I'm not necessarily going to get into those as much as I am just going to talk about the importance of balance. So, the thing that brought this to my attention very conspicuously was an incident that happened last week when I was taking my kids to school. The school run is stressful for us. We don't live very close to the school. And we had been late multiple mornings in a row, and this one was the last straw. And spoiler alert, we continue to be late after this, but this is important because I'll get to that. But that wasn't the significant issue. The issue was it was the last straw, and I snapped and I cried all the way to school. So I cried from our house to their school when I dropped them off, which is about 20 minutes away, 25. It's almost a half-hour trip. So I bawled my eyes out and said lots of things that I regret, which I later fixed, which I'll get to as well. But the point is, that's a lot of crying. And it's not the behavior that I want to model for my children. And I definitely tried. I definitely had my moments where I got control of myself and said, I'm done. I'm not going to cry. But then I'd start to cry again. It was very rough. It was a very rough time. I'm not proud of it at all. I'm not condoning it, but it happened. And I learned from it. So what I did is I ended up having like a 2-hour conversation with my mom. And after we hung up and talked about a lot of different things, I came up with a list, and I'm actually quite proud of it. I think it's a very good list. And it's not all inclusive, but I think it's helpful for finding balance. So I'm going to share it with you. I shared it with my kids. After school, we had a talk, and I fixed things and apologized and took back some things that I had said that I really wish I hadn't said. And as much as I was able to, like I said, fixed what happened. And I actually think that's one of the best things we can do as a parent is model repentance and humility, whatever word you want to have for that. Well, I'm not condoning what happened. I'm not excusing it or anything. But there are times when we're going to mess up as parents. And you better believe that because we're not perfect. We're human beings and stuff happens. And despite our very best efforts, we mess up, okay? And I think one of the best things we can do is show our kids that we're human and that we all make mistakes, but that we can fix that. Because I think if we pretend to be perfect or don't admit that we're not perfect, it does a huge disservice to our kids because they're human. And when they grow up, they're going to have a really difficult time and be like, why am I so messed up? What's so fundamentally wrong with me? Because I keep making all these mistakes, and my parents never did, and they had it all together, and they had everything figured out, and they were so perfect, and I'm not. Like, what's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with them. Nothing. They're just human beings, and we all make mistakes. And so, yes, we definitely want to be adults. Definitely. I'm not saying we should go around and be blubbering 2-year-olds like I was last week. But I think if we are blubbering 2-year-olds, we have the maturity that we can say, hey, that wasn't cool. I had a lot of stuff going on. It isn't an excuse, but I'm sorry, and fix it. Versus pretending like it never happened, acting like adults always know what they're doing and everything, and that it's perfect, and basically gaslighting our kids. Because one of the best things we can do for them is show them that we're human and that we have grace for ourselves and that we have grace for them, and teach them how to have grace for themselves. I think that's one of the best gifts that we can give them. So back to my story. So I cried all the way to school and had this talk with my kids after school. And the number one thing is I explained to them, yeah, we mess up sometimes, and I messed up, and I'm really sorry, and let's try to fix it. And I explained to them I was out of balance. And again, not excusing it, but there are reasons for that. Hormonal reasons, lack of sleep reasons, financial stress reasons, a lot of things that had played into me just kind of reaching my breaking point. But the important thing is I had messed up and I wanted them to know that I acknowledged that and that I was sorry and I fixed it the best that I could. Talked to them, but I also taught them an important lesson that we can all get out of balance sometimes, and that's a huge sign to us, a huge red flag that things aren't in harmony and that we need to fix that. So I made a list and I wanted to share it with all of you, and I think that these things are helpful. So the number one thing on my list, the number one thing is acknowledging that whatever is going on right now might be really, really hard. It might be horrible. And there are all kinds of things that can be going on in our lives at different times. Um, but as important as it is to be able to acknowledge, like, man, this is really tough right now, it's also important to recognize that it's not going to go on forever. And this too will end. It will pass. It will be behind you. You'll look back on it and things will get better. There's a brighter day tomorrow, a brighter future. And I think it's so hard when I think I'm recording and then I lose it because I feel like I say things so well the first time, and the second time I'm around, it's like you can't like recreate the exact same thing. But basically, the idea is sometimes we go through rough patches, and it could be a terrible day, or it could be a terrible week, or sometimes month. It could even be a terrible year, as much as I hate to say that. But I don't even want to put a time frame on it because maybe it's been more than a year for you. And I feel like it would be really unfair to discount that by saying, you know, a week, a month, a year, when maybe it's been longer. So I don't want to put a time on it, but whatever time frame that you're going through or will go through or have gone through, it could be really, really horrible. It does not last forever. And I know this because I've lived a long time, longer than probably most of you. And I have learned that the sun always comes up after a rainstorm, and morning always follows a really, really long night. And the spring always follows a very difficult and long winter. And so, because I've seen that happen enough times, and I'm not just speaking metaphorically, but literally, I know and have enough faith that even when things seem really, really, really dark, that the light will come out again. And I know that a lot of times we think we've hit the bottom and things couldn't get worse, but we hit another bottom. And it's like, I don't know how that's possible because look how bad things were. And like they just got worse. And it can be very discouraging because then we start to think, I'm not going to ever get out of this because it's just going to keep going downhill because it keeps going downhill right now. But trust me, it is going to get better. It will eventually pass and things will turn around again. So one more thing with that is our focus. And if you're focusing on how bleak and negative and difficult and even horrific things are, sadly, that just amplifies all of those things in your life. It doesn't make things better. So trust that they will get better. And then as much as possible, and I'm not saying this is easy because it isn't for me, and I'm sure it's not for you, but as much as possible, shift your focus from the negative and the bad and the things that aren't working out to the good. Even if it's just knowing things will eventually be good, knowing that it's going to get better, you can just think about how glorious that sunrise is going to be, whether metaphorically or physically, but changing your focus and focusing as much as possible on the positive. And yes, even that may be focusing on the future because the future is going to be once you've moved past this really difficult time. The next one's gratitude. And I hope this isn't played out too much because it really is underrated. And I think one of the best things that we can do, especially when we're going through a difficult time, is to focus on what we are thankful for. And my biggest regret from my incident last week was not crying in front of my kids. I think it's okay to be human and have emotion and cry. I think I shouldn't have cried all the way to school. I think I should have gotten in control of myself, but I was pretty distraught about things. Not about being late. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, but about a lot of things. But I was very discouraged about a lot of things. I don't regret crying so much as I regret some of the things that I said. And one of them that I wish I could take back, I did after the fact as much as possible. But I just expressed really strong feelings about our life right now and where things are. And in the moment, yes, there are some very frustrating things, very, very difficult, um, hard to work through things, right? Situations and factors. But there are so many good things too. And by saying that, I was overlooking all of the wonderful things, all the things that I'm grateful for. And even one of my kids, and I wish I could remember which one it was. I think it, I don't know, I don't want to say which one it was because I don't remember, but they even asked me when I was in my meltdown, like to be grateful. Like, what are you grateful for, mom? But I was in a moment where it was hard to even think of those things. And so sometimes maybe we just have to get the emotions out and free up space to be grateful. But as soon as possible, try to think of things you're grateful for. Because after I dropped them all off at school and I took some time and thought about these things and made my list, I realized there are so many things I'm grateful for. And the things I'm grateful for way far outweigh the difficult things. So it doesn't make them go away and it doesn't make them much easier to deal with. But again, it goes back to that focus. I can focus on the things I'm grateful for, and there are just so many. So make a list. You don't have to write it down, but think of things, and they could be small things like how much you love a hot fudge, brownie sundae, or it could be sunsets or your dog or your kids or whatever. But think about the things that you love and make that gratitude list, and I promise it will make a difference. The next one after that is that sometimes we need a break, and it's okay. Sometimes we simply need a break. Maybe the pressures of life or this trial that we're going through, or the lack of sleep, the monotony of just over and over and over, just dealing with the same stresses and not having enough sleep to cope with them. Whatever the case, sometimes we need a break. And a break can look like a lot of different things. It could look like a nap. Sometimes that's a nap in your car, maybe on a break at work, or in the middle of the day. Sometimes it is a snack. Sometimes it's a phone call to somebody that can help bring you back down to earth and reassure you. Sometimes it's a hug. Sometimes you just need a hug. Sometimes it might be sitting and coloring for an hour. Sometimes it might be just sitting for 5 minutes. But it's okay to acknowledge that we're human and that sometimes we just need a break. And that break can make a huge difference. It can give us like emotional air. It can calm our nervous system. So physically, it can make a difference. If it's sleep, I mean, sleep does wonders. If it's a nap, I can't even tell you how much of a difference that can make when we're going through a difficult time. But just remember that sometimes we just need a break, and that's okay. So when you're out of balance, maybe think of a way that you can take a step back and give yourself some kind of break. Honor that and give yourself a little bit of a reprieve. The last one that I put on my list is faith. And that can look like a lot of different things, but the general idea I want to convey to all of you is faith is knowing that this isn't going to last forever, that things are going to get better, that there's a brighter day, a brighter future ahead. So faith can look like a lot of things, and I'm not going to get into specifics because every person gets to figure out what that means for them. But faith can be prayer. I forgot some of them. It could be prayer, it could be scriptures, it could be talking to somebody that has faith. Sometimes we lean on other people's faith and their hope to get us through a difficult time. Sometimes faith can be found in nature because, again, those repeating cycles of seasons and growth and regrowth and rebirth and all of that, sometimes that can be really comforting and faith promoting. So meditation, whatever it is for you that helps bring you that comfort and that helps give you hope for the future, can help you to find that balance. And again, I just don't want to underestimate the importance of people that can help buoy you up and help strengthen your faith. There are people that can hurt that faith and bring us down, make us more doubtful, more cynical, more critical. I don't recommend that. It hasn't been a good experience in my life when I start to lose that balance, when I'm around maybe too many people that are pulling me down. And so I do better if I start to soak in fresh water. And that comes from Stephen R. Covey. He talked about barnacles that attach to the side of boats in salt water. And there's no way to get the barnacles off. It would cost a lot of money, I think, to like physically pry them off the boats. But there's a really simple solution. If they just not dock, is that the word? Harbor? Dock? If they dock the boats in fresh water, if they harbor them, I need to look that up because I don't know which one it is. If they leave the boats to soak in fresh water, the barnacles naturally fall off. And so I think that's such a great metaphor and example for us, if we get bogged down by negativity, sometimes we just have to surround ourselves by good people, good music, good entertainment, good books, whatever it is that helps us to like refill our cup and let all of the negativity like kind of melt away and just replenish. So that's my last one. And then my final thoughts are just, again, to reiterate that things are going to get better. It's not going to be like this forever. And I'm going to tell you one quick story. I wish I could remember where she heard it or what it's from. And so if you know, please, like, you can feel free to put this in the comments or if there's a link to the video or whatever. But somebody was struggling with wanting to not be alive anymore. And she was talking to her brother, and just she was dealing with so much and so sad and just done with everything. And he asked her a really poignant question. He said, if you could be anywhere in the world right now and none of those problems existed, none of the stuff that you're going through, just you know, you're still alive, but you're just in some other place in the world, but none of the problems come with you, would you still want to end your life? And she said no. And he said, then it's not your life that you're done with. It's just all the problems. You can't take any more of that. And I've been in those moments myself, and I'm not saying to that extent, but I've been so frustrated and so just overburdened sometimes. And I realize if I could take away all my problems, I would want to keep going. And so I think if you're going through a difficult time, that's a really helpful exercise. Like, just imagine, could you be in the most beautiful place on earth, or the happiest place, or the most relaxing place? Like, imagine yourself there with people or without people, if you love being alone, whatever the situation, and see if that makes you feel a little bit better. And maybe there's a way that you can get there, or just take that break to give yourself some relief, and you'll find that it's a lot easier to deal with things. I think it's important for us to find balance. I think, again, being human beings, we mess up. And sometimes we don't get enough sleep. Sometimes we're not eating very well. Sometimes we just have a lot of stresses piling up and we're not taking those breaks, and we can really lose sight of ourselves in the process and become complete messes. And I have done plenty of that. But I think that these things can help. And so this is something I'm working on, changing my focus, being more grateful, fixing things when they go wrong, strengthening my faith, taking breaks when necessary. And I'm sure there are so many others. This is just the list that I came up with. It right now is kind of helping keep me more on track. But I'd love to hear what's helping you through your hard times. And that's pretty much all I have to say for now. So last, I just want to say that everything's going to be okay. Even though it doesn't feel like it right now, everything is going to be okay. And you don't have to love every minute of your life. It's okay to hate the really, really crummy stuff, because there's just some rough patches. But you don't want to hate the whole thing, because that would mean hating the good things too. And so just hang in there and know that it's going to be okay. And know that there are people that love you, and that I love you, even though I don't know you. And that everything's going to work out. And what we think about, we bring about. I'm sure you've heard that before. And just to have good thoughts, because thoughts are things. And I think we don't give our thoughts enough weight. But if you're thinking too much, sometimes you need a break from that too. So get a good sleep, eat a good meal, and find something to do that you absolutely love. All right, peace out. Try this and see if it's the right angle, see if it's good lighting enough, and good enough lighting, and see if this works.